you think the passion is still there when it comes to filmmaking in the Western world, I guess?
100%, 100%. And I say that because growing up, I mean, I don't want to get too political, but
Yeah,
growing
yeah.
up, I every film that I watched was very white. Like all the characters were white, most of the
Hmm.
characters white. My only introduction to stories from like people of color were because I'm South Asian, so I would watch Bollywood films and stuff like that. So that's where I got my brown people on camera. And
Yeah.
then I do have a lot of like my neighbors were all people of color, so I would watch classic black films because my classmates would talk about them, and they were obviously more drawn to movies that where characters look like them. But what was really being pushed in media was obviously movies that um, were mostly white, like predominantly white cast,
Yeah.
and characters didn't look like me. Stories didn't tell stories that I was familiar with. But now growing up, I'm seeing a lot of that changing. Like
Yeah,
I feel
the
like
film world.
Hollywood is becoming aware of the fact that for the longest time we've been pushing western stories, and specifically white western stories, because the western world is full of so many different kinds of people. But I feel like, yeah, Hollywood is now more aware of that, and they're
Hmm.
trying to push people of color onto the screen. They're trying to push not just people of color on the screen, but people of color behind the screen as well, which is also just as important. A story being told by a person of color about people of color is very important, because that's authentic, that's honest. And I feel like I'm seeing that now. Like I'm starting to see people of color take the stance, and I didn't see that as a kid. And I
Hmm.
feel like that's only going to get more and more common as I get older. At least I hope so,
Yeah, no,
because
definitely.
no matter where you're from, it's so beautiful and so important to learn and see stories about people from all over. Because the number one thing I feel like film does is it influences us. And so the media that we watch plays a really big role in the way that we think and the way that we interact with people.
Hmm.
And if we see more diverse films, it's just going to allow for more diversity and more honest conversations between different groups of people. So I definitely think the passion is still there. I know, like, just going to school with like a bunch of films kids, everyone's super passionate. Everybody
Hmm.
wants to tell their stories. And seeing a lot of people of color in our classrooms is also really inspiring, because it just shows that the future is looking really bright for all young creators. It's going to be a lot different from what we've seen before. And we can definitely look back at, past Hollywood or just movies in general and learn from them, but also change the narrative and tell stories that weren't told before. So,
Bars,
period.
bars. No, for sure. Like it's cool because I mean, most of the time when you're thinking about films in the like 80s, and we're watching like Western films, right? The
Yeah.
white man against the black man.
It's not even like blatant, like white against black or white against this person. It's just
Yeah,
like,
like
characters in the
cowboys and aliens
background.
and like all this like
Yeah.
movies for entertainment. Now it's movies for messages.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That's the beauty of film. It's like I think that it pushes a lot of people to think
Yep.
about certain things, whether it's situations that happen in the film that
Yeah.
can relate to what you're watching, what's happening at home,
Yeah.
what's happening around you.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to get into this next topic about favorite films.
Ah.
It don't matter. It don't matter.